go ahead and do that now.
This meeting is being recorded.
And as you can tell, this meeting is now being recorded. So I'm going to get right into our introduction here. We're really happy to have you again, and I'll be monitoring the chat today and assisting with any technical questions. So don't hesitate to reach out in the chat, typically in that bottom right-hand corner. And I'm pretty much just going to straight pass it over to our wonderful presenters today. We'll be talking about how to launch a math week. And so I have with us here Sandra Consilio and Damon Neiser. And without further ado, I'm going to just go ahead and pass the rock right over to them.
Thank you, Chris. Well, today we're going to be looking at launching a math week, not only in your own district, but also how to facilitate a math night. So let's jump in, as Chris mentioned. The first question that we're going to tackle at the end of the day is going to be, does community engagement matter? And we're going to be tackling that with myself, Damon Neiser, and also Sandra Consilio, who is our Director of Success for all of our Texas partners. So again, does the community engagement matter? And if so, what's the impact? The second thing we're going to look at is the pressure to achieve and what that does to our learners and our educators. And then the third thing we're going to look at is Family Math Night and Math Week, what we have created here at Mind Research Institute to help bridge the gap in math learning and understanding. So, does our relationship with mathematics impact student beliefs or outcomes? And if so, how and what is that relationship? It's part of what we're going to be examining today is the relationship that us as adults have with mathematics and how that affects our learners. Our focus areas are going to be educators, father figures, and mother figures, and really all those with a stake in student success. We're going to call them learning guardians when referring to the whole community supporting a learner. So, what effect, if any, does it have? We examined the relationship fathers, mothers, and educators have about their own abilities, their anxieties, and the practices. We found several interesting correlations and causations when examining that. The first, let's start with our father figures. The anxiety in father figures actually significantly impacted student beliefs and the level of anxiety that kids have for mathematics learning. That being said, it was interesting to find that the father's knowledge and anxieties of mathematics did not, however, impact student outcomes, only their self-beliefs and anxiety toward maths in general. Alternatively, when we looked at and examined the anxiety present in educators and mothers, or those mother figures, we found it did not impact student beliefs or anxiety, but it did have a significant impact on student outcomes and achievement. We also found that to be true regarding the persistence students bring to learning mathematics. Have you ever heard the saying, it's okay to not be good at math, neither am I? A lot of adults, especially parents, are saying that to kids today. That mindset from adults is what allows math anxiety to grow in our learners. And that is precisely what we will, at Mind Research, work to correct on a daily basis. And we've already made great strides. The second piece is the educators. You heard that educator attitudes absolutely affected outcomes and achievement in our learners. So why is that? Well, let's start with the basic facts. For K through 5 educators, a study from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation found that less than 8% of those K-5 educators had any advanced training in mathematics. Advanced meaning anything beyond a college course or certification specifically focused on mathematics learning and teaching. That results in K-5 educators reverting to their comfort level in mathematics instruction, which is typically dominated by skill-based worksheets, algorithm practice, and rote memorization. But for those 6th through 8th age grade educators, and the 8% of those K-5 educators who do have that advanced mathematics training and a positive math attitude, they're actually more often found focusing on the encouragement and practice of independent work and exploration in math, persistence training, discourse, and provide more active learning opportunities and demonstration of mathematics in the classroom. In those classrooms, we often find that whole group instruction and lecture to be far less common, while student grouping by ability and the opportunities for development of conceptual understanding were far more common. Next slide, please. So where do we start? Well, we start by reversing just one of those learning guardians at the end of the day. And we found that that can have a tremendous impact. We have to focus on the attitudes that these learning guardians have towards mathematics. That's first and foremost. Sandra will be sharing exactly how we're doing that at Mind Research through our family math nights and our math weeks, and how to reframe the relationship these learning guardians have with mathematics and the impact that can have in both our students and our learning guardians. The second thing we're going to look at is explore easy to implement ways to inspire math learning and curiosity for the entire community, not just students. But first, we're actually going to explore what the pressure to achieve does to an educator and the learning environment for students. We've all heard that phrase, teaching to the test. What we don't really like to talk about at the end of the day is what is sacrificed when we skip those building blocks in learning mathematics. They're the foundation to a student's conceptual understanding of what they're being asked to demonstrate on that test, as well as the influence that has on the level of anxiety a student has for math learning. Next, we're going to look at the classroom and what this does to the educators with that math anxiety. We're first going to examine the learning environment and the impact the pressure to achieve has on educators. While they may not be biological parents, their connection and responsibility for their students matters. When teachers are stressed out about student outcomes in mathematics and they're being forced to teach the test, that can easily be seen in classroom instruction as the educator changes their approach to learning and instruction. They begin talking twice as much. They use concrete and controlling statements. They decrease or completely remove student choice and exploration from the learning process. And they become more critical of every student's ability to become a mathematician. So what impact on outcomes does an educator's relationship with mathematics actually have on a student? And of all of our learners, who has the most anxiety? Well, according to recent research, high achievers actually have the most anxiety. And that anxiety has lasting impact. Research has found that high levels of anxiety towards math learning can cost the loss of an entire school year of learning. That's even more important today as we are addressing unfinished learning, largely brought on by the pandemic. So really lowering math anxiety through family math nights and math weeks is about providing an opportunity for all students, regardless of their ability, to form a positive and joyful relationship with mathematics. It doesn't just stop with the students. We also found we actually have the exact same impact with all learning guardians, including those K-5 educators. So let's start with our hypothesis. We wanted to see if we interact with math in the right ways, we believe we can redefine the relationship our students, parents, and educators have with math learning. Furthermore, we can engage more community members, sparking their curiosity, which will result in lowering or eliminating the anxiety associated with math learning. What we found was quite interesting. Mind Research's Family Math Nights and Math Week brought the entire community together. So we're going to take a quick look at reflections and the statistics that we heard back from our families participating in Math Week and Family Math Night. First thing we discovered was group learning was what they preferred. On average, we had 7 people participating together in Math Week, playing together at home or even in class. That's playing board games, reading storybooks, or engaging in some of the hands-on learning opportunities that we provide here at Mind Research. 85% of folks let us know that they enjoyed having that math experience together, whereas they related to most of their anxiety was brought on by singular math experiences where they were alone. 80% reported Math Week and Family Math Night was one of the best experiences around math they've ever had. And 83% of respondents said that there should be more math experiences like this. You can see from our 22,222 families that engaged with Math Week or our family math night, it's not a small sample size. And after the overwhelming demand from those families for more experiences like that, we've met that challenge. So what we're going to do really next is we're going to look at what makes Math Week and family math nights here at Mind Research so engaging, how it redefines our experience and association with math learning. And that's exactly the fun part that Sandra will be sharing with us today. But first, I want to probe you all. I want to understand what gives you anxiety. So here's my challenge to the audience. I want you to type in the chat, take 10, 15 seconds, and think about what gives you anxiety. And go ahead and throw that in the chat for us. It could be anything like sharks, snakes, spiders, oh my. It could be waiting to see how amazing Math Week is and for Damon to get finished with this one last slide before you get to see it. Anything at all. Speaking in large groups, water parks. Change management. Wow, we've had no lack of change the last couple of years. That is for sure. Dentist visits. There you go. That's with or without the gas. So I'm going to take one too that really stood out to me and really impacted my my childhood. I was deathly afraid of sharks. And I'll tell you, with my own experience, and the research has shown that I was able to completely redefine my relationship with sharks and remove that anxiety through knowledge and understanding. If we offer the opportunity for that understanding, maybe take someone to where they have the opportunity to physically interact with a shark and redefine their experience with sharks, they can get back to enjoying simple things as swimming in the ocean. But we have to take that person and provide them with the education and understanding first. And then we have the opportunity to talk about redefining that relationship. But how does that even translate to math anxiety? And how do we give our families and teachers the opportunity to redefine their relationship with math and really lessen that anxiety? Well, that is exactly what we took on as Mind Research Institute and what Sandra will be showing you right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Damon. Is my audio okay? I think it got unmuted when I started sharing my screen and there was some feedback, but hopefully it's okay now. Sound okay? I'm not hearing anything opposing. So the challenge that we were taking on was simple. We wanted to make math learning and discourse at home as comfortable for parents as it was when they read a bedtime story to their students. And so that's where we came to the rescue by creating engaging storybooks that focused on developing critical thinking, providing opportunities for math learning and discourse at home. We connected families with a learning style that they would be comfortable with, and we did that through the board games and the storybooks. But we also wanted to meet the students with the opportunity for our digital natives to take learning with them wherever they are going. So we make Math Week website available 24/7 as long as they can access the website. Remember, we created these stories books that tell a story and explain the game. We created games that inspired critical thinking. There were multiple levels of games to play. We connected the students and families with learning styles everyone was comfortable with and could engage with. And we met them in an environment where the anxiety was lowered, and it wasn't about the rote memorization or understanding algorithm and the problem solving that they were traditionally presented with. And this learning could go anywhere. So by offering the family math night with this new experience and this new content, we were able to see record-setting attendance. So we had in Milwaukee, Escuela View was their elementary school, and they had 450 people attend just for one math night to experience this content. We've also seen great impact in other Milwaukee math nights throughout their district. And then even in Texas, we saw record-setting math usage with the game and with ST Math. And we'll share those numbers with you in a little bit, but it's incredible to see how much impact and engagement was happening. And so while it's all incredible, why is it incredible? Once we launched our family math nights and math week, we saw an overwhelming demand from parents and the entire community to engage with their students' math learning. They wanted to be in the driver's seat. So the question is, does this only happen in a controlled environment? And what we traditionally see is family math nights that are a controlled environment, that they look like those skills that Damon referenced earlier about rote memorization, skill-based practice. And so we're still working to solve the challenge of creating a better math experience for everyone involved. And we want to complete the challenge of providing this new environment that's not reached through this controlled environment. And we still have events where teachers are facilitating like we would normally see, where they're creating card games or little take-home packs. Their chance to break the mold and see a refreshing take on math is very limited. So we wanted to figure out how to make it where it was a community math night and the parents were in the driver's seat. So we started tackling the problem and making sure to reach all families. Milwaukee was our ground zero. That's where we started. Much of our insights came from Escuela View, which had the record-setting attendance, and also at another campus in Milwaukee, Rogers Street Elementary. Our goal was how to put teachers, or families, sorry, not teachers, how to put the families, the guardians in the driver's seat and keep them there. So when we began with the math night in a traditional controlled environment where we invited the families, we set them up with the boxed sets of games, we were able to measure the engagement that parents and families were having with the activities with what we call a cell phone metric. It was a quick mark. What we saw and noticed is that there are fewer phones, so the parents weren't standing to the side while students were rotating through different stations, checking their email or looking at something else, probably TikTok that stresses Eric out. I saw that in the chat. We heard more discussions between the parents and the students about what they were seeing, what they were doing in the game and the problems that they were solving. And we witnessed engagement between those students and those adults. So we have them now in the driver's seat. But what about the language barrier? Is there going to be a language barrier if the parents become the driver? So what you will see and notice a little bit when we dive into the Math Week website is that the content and the structure of Math Week diminishes the language barrier because it de-silos mathematics. It's not in isolation. You're using storybooks, you're using history, you're using those interactive critical thinking games that don't traditionally look like a math station or a math take-home activity. You have families driving the experience by playing at home or wherever they are and for however long they want. The facilitators don't have to be teachers or school staff. Family members begin to facilitate the learning and the play. And the content is provided in Spanish as well as it is in English, and it works well in both languages. So don't just take it from me, but what I want you to hear from is Jay Flores, who shares a little bit about what does Math Week look like and what to expect from Math Week.
Welcome to Math Week. Why am I so excited? Because this is a typical experience with math. There's no worksheets.
And Sandra, might just be me here, but I don't know if I'm coming through on the audio. So if it's possible,
you are.
maybe...
I did not share my sound. Let me start that again. And back this up. Thank you.
Welcome to Math Week.
Can you hear now?
Why am I so excited about Math Week? It's because this isn't going to be your typical experience with math. There's no worksheets, no homework, no formulas, and best of all, 0 tests. I was inspired by this pile of worksheets. It said no student ever. During Math Week, instead of textbooks, you'll learn from stories based in the world around us with really fun characters. There won't be any confusing word problems. If Susie has 3 blue shirts and 3 red shirts, how many purple parrots does Susie have? What? Instead, you'll interact with math via fun games like Gigi Bingo and historical activities inspired by people all over the world, like crawl animals and turtle sums. The best part is that adults and children can enjoy the Math Week activities together. Even siblings from different grade levels can have fun learning math together. Engage from home on your own time for as little, as long, as often as you would like. Math Week games and stories are free and easy to access. You can play digitally via web-based or mobile versions, or you can create your own physical versions of the games using the DIY resources. To access the games and stories, click on the day of the week. Select the grade and language, flip the card over, and get started. Each night, fill out the survey as the official tally for the week. Be on the lookout for more information from your school, and get excited for a math experience that's going to be as entertaining as it is educational.
Awesome. So just real quick, what were some things that you saw or heard from Jay that excited you that would look different in this type of math week or math night? You can throw it in the chat, or if you want to unmute. There's a lot of games, and of course that gets the students excited. The stories that go with them. So that goes back to that we're not doing the math just in a silo of it's only a math activity. It becomes a reading activity as well. I think one of my favorite things is that you can do it on web-based, you can do it on the app on your phone, or if you want to create and draw it out yourself, you have that opportunity also. And yes, Caroline, no worksheets.
And Sandra, if I can jump in too here, I mean, just Jay's energy, I think, says it all, right? It's just so exciting and fun to just be involved in math. And if that's
Absolutely
the outcome.
Yeah.
Huge.
And you already mentioned turtle sums. We're going to play turtle sums in just a minute, but he shared with us how that you can play as long as you want. You can play as often as you want. And it's just a fun experience. And so I want to share with you the experience that we had. Oh, sorry. There we go. The experience that we had in LAUSD. So it's Los Angeles Unified School District. And I think my chat box might be covering it. Can y'all see the whole screen? There we go. So this is data from LAUSD on the math week that they had. And before you start reading the bars, I want you to make note that the scales vary. So don't assume that the height of each bar is representing the same scale. It's 3 different components of the experience. So during math week, parents and families are asked to report on how often they engage with the content. They report on their time that they spend in the content, and then how much they enjoy the activities that they completed that evening. So when we look at the frequency of how often did families play over 4 weeks, they said that they completed almost 16 sessions during those 4 weeks. Now, we're at a math conference, so you can make the assumption here that they're playing about 4 times per week. And then the average time that they're playing every time they're logging in over those 4 weeks, they were spending on average 35 minutes per session in math games, math engagement, and story and discourse within the home and with their families. And if you remember Damon's number earlier, on average, there was about 7 people at a time engaging in these activities with them in these sessions. So if you imagine if you have a family at home that is engaged with their storybooks, they're playing math games, and they're doing this for 35 minutes, 3 to 4 nights per week. That's significantly different than what we typically see in one night of a family math night on campus. Would you agree? And then let's look at the enjoyment rating. So we asked them to rate how much they enjoy the content on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. And the average score is 4.4 out of 5. So not only are they engaging in positive math experiences, which is going to help us lessen that math anxiety that Damon shared with us and that pressure to achieve, but they're engaging it with their families and they're also enjoying the activities. So Damon shared this slide a little bit ago. And remember, if we can interact with math in the right ways, we're able to redefine the relationship that our students, our parents, and educators have with math learning. We can engage more of the community by sparking their curiosity, which will result in lowering or eliminating the anxiety associated with math learning. Just this morning, I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw a quote and it says, I'm sorry, I should have grabbed the exact quote, but I don't have it. But it basically talked about if we're focusing on the content and the tests and everything else, the one thing that we're taking out of the equation in our classroom is that curiosity. And so by providing this type of math week that produces this type of impact, we're able to re-energize and re-spark that curiosity. So Math Week with Mind Research and Math Family Nights can bring the entire community together to get lasting numbers like this. And here's some other significant things that we saw in the Math Week in just 5 months. And then this is the past 5 months, and I should have corrected that because it was through June of 2022. So we've hosted 17 of these events. So we have a lot of numbers and data to see, is this working and are we seeing an impact in schools? 12 million Math Mind minutes have been played over 5 months. We've had what is estimated after if you were to host on your campus a traditional night, which is about an hour and a half to 2 hours that you invite families to your campus to participate in games and stations. You can get about 1 or 2 maybe a school year. But in 5 months, we've been able to hold the equivalent of 800 of those math nights through Math Week with Mind Research. And there's a significant correlation that schools see between Math Mind, Math Week, and ST Math. And so in addition to just doing the Math Mind games, they're also playing 6.5 million more minutes of extra ST Math beyond what they see in the classroom. We talked about those unique families. Oh, sorry, mouse got away from me. The unique families that we've been able to reach. And it's about an estimate of about 90,000 individual people that are participating through these unique families that we've seen in Math Week. So let's play. This is your first experience as a participant in Math Week. I'm gonna give you a quick taste of it. There's 2 QR codes here. The one on the left is going to take you to the storybook. Pay attention as you're looking through the book because there's no directions when we go to the game. However, those game directions are revealed in the story. And the QR code on the right will take you to the game Turtle Sums. And I think we have a small enough audience and plenty of time that we're going to get to play. So I want to give you a moment to look through the book. You don't have to read the whole book. I just want you to experience that. I'm just going to also jump out of here so that I can grab these links for you. This is the storybook. I'm dropping it into the chat for you if you're not using your QR code. And this is the game. All right. So give y'all a second to play and read. And then we're gonna jump in here ourselves. Let me know if you're struggling, if that's not working for you, those 2 links. So Turtle Sums is the storybook that goes along with one of the day's games in Math Week. The families would read the book together. Like I said, it tells you the directions of how to play. And then after, and you notice the illustrations begin to show the patterns on a turtle's back, and incorporating some math patterns into the shell to introduce the game Turtle Sums. So let's take it over to the actual game now. So this is the web-based. Remember, you can play web-based or app, or you can draw these out yourselves and make them manipulatives, but we're going to do it web-based today. So immediately, what math do you already see on the screen with the visuals that are represented here? Anyone want to share what you think our objective is? Yeah, so we have some addition that's going to happen. And I made my chat box too big and now I can't. The Turtle Sums work for y'all? Are y'all able to get into Turtle Sums? Because I want you to be able to play on your own too, not just with me. All right, so we have, these look like pieces. The green pieces are probably going to go into the Turtle Sums back, but we also have some numbers around the edges. I can already look and see that it started for me. So I have 1 and 2, and if I keep going across, 1 plus 2 equals 3. So I've got 2 missing numbers. Anyone want to give me, what's this bottom left number? What should it be? Or what is the goal that we want that number to come out to for? So thank you, Jeannie, she gave me 4. So if I drop 4 in, I know that 1 plus 4 is 5. And I don't want to make the assumption that it's correct, because what else do you notice about the Turtle Sums in the petals? It goes in multiple directions. So it also has to go diagonal. So 4 plus 2 has to equal 6. That means that I only have 1 choice left for the bottom. And if I put 3 in the bottom, do all of my lines on my turtle's back line up, I can check it. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7, all the way across. And we go to the next level. There's multiple levels within Turtle Sums. It is not just a quick round, but if we look at this, I'm going to go into the settings here. Perhaps it's not letting me click the settings. There we go. The settings have multiple games and puzzles within there. So this one goes up to 16 just in this round. I'm going to jump up a little bit to 7. So you notice now with level 7, my numbers have gotten increasingly higher, but they also have not provided me any hints. So I'm going to drop in just 1. I'm just going to drop 5 in. And can anybody make this work with 5? Or if you want me to move 5, go ahead and tell me where you want me to move it to. Everybody's working hard on theirs, trying to figure it out. 5 doesn't work there. All right, where do you want me to put 5 then? Top left. Thank you, Jim. All right. Anybody have another spot that they can fill in? 8 is going to go in the bottom right. All right, so we have 5 plus 8 is 13. 7 to the right of the 5. Y'all aren't even talking to me and listen to the language you're able to provide in here with diagonal and positioning, which in some of our state standards, you'll see that language as well. And then there's only 1 spot left for 6. Give you a quick second to check before I ask the game to check it for us. Anybody want to make any final edits? All right, let's see. That was correct. Thank y'all for playing along with me. So this is Turtle Sums that goes with Turtle Sums book. But that is just one night, one level of multiple evenings of gameplay. And that's the lift. We provide the content for you. Yes, thank you, Damon. And it gets challenging, more challenging each time you go up all the way through the end. Each district is provided with their own dedicated website with all of the content. And it's just, I think for being a former math director in a district, that this was probably the easiest lift because your staff is not having to prepare a lot of stations and things for parents to take home and create activities, but the impact to the learning and how it changes the mindset and perseverance in students and the instructional teachers, that impact is massive and creates such a meaningful experience. So I want you to have opportunity to look at what this website looks like. I'm going to drop this in for you. This is an example of what we built for you for your dedicated district when you, in partnership with us, to do a Math Mind week. So at the top, you would have your school name and the Math Week numbers would be represented by the games and stories your families are playing in your district, the minutes they played, and then how many families have engaged with Math Mind Weeks. The video that Jay shared with you, or I shared with you from Jay, it's here as well for you to share with your families. We provide your flyers. And then every evening they come in and they select their grade level, they flip the card, and they read the story and play the game. And so there are multiple grade levels. Like Jay said, brothers and sisters can play across grade levels. There are different stories per evening. And then you go into the second night and you have the same content, the same format again, but with new content. And you don't have to do it one night and you miss it. It stays there so they continuously can play with that and experience it. So grab that link there that I just dropped for you as an example of what Math Week website looks like and how easy of a lift it would be for your district to participate in the Math Week like this. And again, remember, it's not just one night and it's not having to interfere with parents and family schedules of busy after school activities and work schedules. They can do this anywhere, anytime from home, or you incorporate it with your on-site Math Week that you participate in. So I mentioned earlier that we had the first ever statewide Math Week, and we did that in Texas back in March for Texas Public Schools Week. And these are the numbers that came out of Texas, and these were record-setting usage for math engagement in all of our platforms. Oh, sorry about that. I want you to keep in mind that everything we've shared with you is to reach that goal of lessening math anxiety and that mindset around math. And we want a partnership with you to do Math Weeks in your district, and it's free. So it doesn't cost your district anything to have a Math Week where you play these games, get these storybooks, get this dedicated website. We provide you with a checklist of things to do in preparing for your event. We give you all your promotional materials, as well as provide you with post-event data like the one that you see here from Texas. All for the outcome of a lot of learning.
It's also worth mentioning, Sandra did mention that we can provide this for an on-site experience as well. And so we've had a lot of folks take advantage of that, as well as the Remake Learning Days, the Kansas City STEM Alliance, and several others have hosted this both as a virtual experience and a hands-on in-person experience. But, you know, Sandra, that all sounds pretty good, but do we have to log in or anything to have access to all that pure math learning?
No login. It goes back to the easy lift. As simple as you accessing that website is how easy your parents and your families and students can access Math Week.
Well, then it must be loaded with advertisements, right?
No advertisements, it's all funded,
Wow. And this is a no cost experience?
no cost, zero cost, which is a really good number any time and day, right?
And that's part of our
Now-
commitment as a nonprofit organization, is to provide pure math learning experiences for the whole community to anyone who's interested.
Jeannie, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but she did ask about the books and the games. So all of the books and the games are all electronic. There are hard copies of the books and games. Those are on, Damon, where do we find those at?
Yeah, the best thing you can do is just contact us, and you can do that at, I'm going to drop it in the chat, info@mindresearch.org, and we can get you connected with how to acquire those physical books as well.
Any other questions, or are you all playing games right now?
Yeah, classic instructional move to give out the games and then have some more to discuss. But
Right.
if anyone has other questions, we're certainly here for it. And so this session does close at 12:10 Pacific. So we'll be here. But I just wanted to say, you know, Damon and Sandra, thank you for explaining and detailing, you know, the math anxiety that I think I mentioned really resonated with me as a student, as a teacher. I very much went to certain instructional methods because I didn't feel ready to open up the classroom and inspire that curiosity and genuine love for math. And so you know, ST Math and certainly experiences like this would certainly help me shift my mind frame for myself and for my students, and then all of the community members that we're ultimately hoping to impact here. So we'll take any other questions here, but really do appreciate you all joining for this session. And if you have anything else, please do let us know.
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions. I did throw the answers into the chat, but I'll just answer them real quick. Again, there is no fee for Math Week that we build the website and provide that content for you outside of your current subscription. And to sign up to partner with us for a free game for the Math Week, email info@mindresearch.org, or if you know who your ST Math contact is, reach out to them and say, hey, I want to do a Math Mind Family Math Week. Thank you all for joining us.
Well,
today.
I'm perfect. I'm watching the chat and just making sure, but I think that we got all of our questions answered here. So at this time, again, thanks very much, Sandra and Damon and everyone that joined. There's one more final keynote in closing here. So we'll hope to see you over there. And do remember, if you are active on social media like LinkedIn, Twitter, please do tag Next Level Learning and ST Math, and we'll continue this dialogue moving forward. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and take care.